Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Konich-Yeehaw podcast. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Jared.
And this last weekend, we went to Anime Frontier.
Yes, a Texas-based convention.
Mm-hmm. And this is their third year? No, more than that.
Yeah, more than that. I don't remember.
I for some reason, for a moment, got confused with WeebCon.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went to Anime Frontier last year. It is at the same location at the Fort Worth Convention Center and Water Gardens, which is definitely my favorite location for conventions in the DFW area.
Oh, definitely.
So let's just hop into things we did, things we saw, pros, cons, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the first day, a Friday, we got there at around 1 because that is when the Artist Alley and Exhibitors Hall open. The convention was open before that and did have panels and meetups and stuff, but we weren't really interested in that, so we didn't plan to arrive until the Exhibitors Hall opened.
Yeah, we've talked about this convention before, and a really key point of this is that this is a buying convention.
Yes.
A shopping convention.
Yes.
A majority of the time spent, at least for us, is shopping because it is massive.
Yes, the Exhibitors Hall is really big. And once again, we did mail our badges. We bought them back in May. They came in a week or two ago. And so super easy, just walk right in, right? Super easy,
Yeah,
not even a line.
Which I will say this year, it was a little easier because last year they required us to have vaccination or a negative COVID test.
Yeah, so
but this year they didn't.
Yeah, so they weren't like really screening, like checking for things like that. So we just held up our badge and walked in. So it did go faster. There was no line.
Yes.
And
which, speaking of the line,
yes,
I do want to say that this is a very well organized convention, and that there are two separate lines that are far apart from each other. There's a line for I already have my badge, and there's the line for I need a badge. So that could be pickup or buying, and they are on opposite sides of a wall. So or two separate entrances entirely.
Right. Yeah.
So it is very easy to be like, it flows really easy.
Yes.
It flows really easy, unlike other conventions where the pickup and the badge buying is right next to each other, and then it all bunches together.
And you don't know what line you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, you don't know, and you don't even notice that there's a badge pickup, and because they didn't say anything, and then, is a whole mess up in that, which I can see people getting messed up with that. But this, super clear, very easy.
Yes, and there were staff outside also directing.
Yeah.
So if you came up and you didn't have a badge, they'll be like, oh, you need to go to the green line over there. If you do have a badge, you can go to the red line right here, and things like that. So on this first day, we dressed up as, you were Santa, and I was the maid, Nagami from Akiba Maid Wars. Again, I've done that in the past. But the first day was really all about you.
Yeah, it was
being
all
Santa.
about me. I got a lot of recognition for being Santa. I got some professional photographers asking to take my pictures, and I passed out presents that had the podcast information. So if you're listening from the QR code, thank you for listening.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, welcome. And it was fun. It was really fun.
Yes.
Last year I noticed that there was no Santas, even though it's around Christmas. And so this year I was like, I'll change that.
Yep, exactly. And you were able to hand out presents, which everybody was very excited about.
Yes, everyone was very excited about the presents.
Of course. And for the most part, this first day we got through the dealer's room.
Yeah, we tackled the dealer's room,
right,
and some of the artist alley, but it was mostly the dealer's room.
Right. So our overall observations for that
both pros and cons.
Yeah, pros and cons. So there appeared to be less pop figures, which for us is a pro. For us is a pro.
And I do want to be very specific about that. there were lots of pops.
Yes, this isn't
But
to say that
there
there weren't
was-
any.
There were less dealers that were only pops.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, WeebCon. WeebCon had a lot of pop only dealers.
Mm-hmm.
This convention only had like one or two.
Right.
Which in the past they've also had more pop only vendors, which hopefully they listened to feedback and were like, we don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot better this year on that aspect.
Yes. And what we did notice more of, though, was there were surprisingly more Lego / brick type sellers.
Yeah.
A lot of customs. There were,
Yes.
there was booths that did custom Legos
Mm-hmm.
or brick. It was
They're
kind of like...
Legos.
Yeah, and I know, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
differentiate that some of them were like the off-brand, like nano brick kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then some of them were like custom Lego minifigs.
Mm-hmm. Which I have seen an increase in that.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 or so conventions that we've been to, or I'd say specifically WeebCon and Anime Frontier, they're more likely, or I've noticed an increase in like I think they're Chinese Legos,
Mm-hmm.
that they're sets. So
Mhm.
like they'll sell whole sets of these Chinese Legos. Like there's one that's like the ship from One Piece, and then
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
the like a
Bonsai tree.
and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, they're cool. I
Mhm.
mean, I have
Yeah.
one. I didn't buy it at a convention, but
Yeah. Other things that I noticed about this dealer's room is that a lot of the booths were more interactive than I
Mhm.
think is typically, or that is more interactive than what is typical at a convention, at an anime convention. Usually you think of the dealer's room, you think of, I'm going to walk in and look around and maybe only interact with the shopkeep whenever I'm ready to buy something, or that kind of interaction. There were more things the booths were much more interactive. So they had the Fort Worth Library was there doing crafts, doing like create your own journal, and they had a button press there where they hole punched or cut out different images, and they were actually like anime images too. They weren't just like random magazine clippings. Meow Wolf and the Anime Social DFW both had coloring pages for kids and for adults, I guess, but they had coloring pages, which was pretty cool. They were tattoo artists, which pros and cons for me.
Yeah.
A tattoo artist is a pro and a con for me. I think that getting tattoos at an anime convention is a neat experience.
Yes.
And I am not against it.
Yeah.
I want to say it's not for me, but I'm not against it.
Yeah, I'm not against it, but I'm very wary of it.
I'm wary of it. And also there were 2, which I am, not to like take away somebody's,
Like
spot.
Yeah.
But I really think you only need one tattoo booth at a convention.
Yeah.
I just, especially since one of the big one, it was like 5 artists. Like they took up a big spot.
Yeah, one of the booths took up like 2 spots, and then the other booth took up 1. And so it was interesting. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. So I think that if conventions are gonna have tattoos, there should really only budget or schedule one studio.
Yeah,
that is
I agree.
My opinion on that. There were guessing games. So if your booth was more about like promoting a group, I guess like the Japan America Society or the
Something
America Japan Society. Sorry, they had like a guess the opening thing, and you could win a sticker, and it was just to get you to talk to them, and a lot more spinning wheels to win things.
Yeah, I noticed that. So there was like quite a few like spin the wheel, and all of them are winners, but it's like $10 to spin the wheel,
right?
And you can just get like whatever, and like that's cool. That's really cool.
And like I said, it draws people in. I noticed, for example, the keyboard company. I mean, if you think about it, there's only a small, like a minority of people who would approach that kind of booth. Yeah. I think. I mean, you would have to have a PC first of all, and also be interested in customizing your PC.
Yeah.
So maybe people wouldn't really come up to that booth, but they put in the effort to have the wheel spin, and they made fidgets, which I think, once again, it's all about like getting people to come up to your booth, right?
Yeah, it's really funny. Like this year specifically was very targeted. It's like, okay, so what do kids like now? I say kids, but there are a lot of adults.
I mean, there's
it's a majority adults.
Young people.
What are the young people like? They like fidgets and they like gotchas.
Yes.
So what are we gonna have? Gotchas and fidgets, like,
right? Yeah.
You know, it's and you know what? I bet they sold a ton of those.
Absolutely.
Those keyboard clickers.
Absolutely. They're. Speaking of, like, I mentioned that the library was there. They also had the recycled bookstore, just to, once again, add to the variety of the kind of things that are there. So, like, this bookstore had records.
Yeah.
And you got one the last day.
I did get a record.
Yes.
It was cool because the records were very, like I said, targeted. There was
all Japanese.
There was anime OSTs.
And
there were video game OSTs. Then there was Vaporwave.
Yes.
Which I was very surprised to see. And then my favorite, there was a lot of like vintage city pop albums, which I ended up getting one of those.
Right.
It was super cool.
So this place had, I mean, of course they had this bookstore had figures, but
And manga.
Well, of course, manga. Yes. It is a bookstore, so it had a lot of manga, a lot of cheap manga. It's also because it was a used bookstore, but then the vinyls, CDs, movies, things like that. So just to add to the mix.
Yeah, you know what?
I
want to go ahead and like talk about this. There was a large variety at this convention. This is probably the most like variety and the most variety I've seen at a convention. And the reason for that is because they have so much space to do it.
They have a lot of space. Yes.
You know, there's the freeze dry, you know, there's food. I'll just go ahead and say food general. Aside from the concessions.
Like
so there's
candy.
like candy, fudge makers, you know, things like that. Then there's the tea people. There was like 2 booths that sold tea.
T-shirts, yeah.
No, I was thinking tea
is in like
drinking tea.
Drinking tea, like hot tea. Sorry.
Hot tea. Then there was a bunch of clothes. There was D&D stuff. There was like a really healthy like amount of variety.
Yes. But then also, I'm going to go ahead and say, to add on to that, I noticed less toy dealers.
Yes.
There were less toy dealers, which last year I got my Assassin's Creed figures from a toy dealer. And these toy dealers had like a lot of vintage toys, open, unopened, things like that. And I kind of missed it, you know. That isn't to say that I still didn't find things that I wanted.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
But I noticed that hole.
Yeah,
in the convention.
That does kind of suck. Because
they did have vintage. They did have game. Well, I'm not gonna say vintage. I guess they're vintage.
They
games.
are vintage. Yeah. No,
DS,
there was vintage there. They also had like N64 like controllers
DS,
and
N64.
things like that. Remember,
like that.
Vintage means 20 years and older.
Yeah, I know. That's why I had to take it back. I'm like, yeah, I guess it is vintage. I guess it is. So that was kind of the dealer's room. We did 2 panel-ish thing, or we had 2 events. Let's just say it that way. One was the Texas Makers Meetup, which they were running the photo booth at the convention, which is they didn't have a photo booth last year.
Yes.
So this was a nice little addition.
Yes, it's Candyland, I believe.
Candyland that does it, yeah.
We've also seen them at other conventions.
Yes, they were at WeebCon. So they had 6 backdrops just for you to take random pictures in, whatever you wanted. There was a little meetup there where the person running it gave out bingo sheets, and the idea was just for you to walk around and meet people, and it was all cosplay related bingo items or slots.
Yeah.
So like, oh, this person used velvet. This person has magnets. And this person hand painted things.
Yeah, I was going to say there are some pretty funny ones too. Like this person is hot.
Yes, this person is
like
hot, temperature hot. This person is really cold.
Yeah.
This person is wearing the wrong shoes, or this person is just wearing Crocs. Like a bunch of different little things like that. So I played it. You didn't really, because you bought your Santa outfit.
Yeah, I felt awkward because like the whole point was that it was like
things that you made.
Right. And I didn't make mine. And so I was like, why wasn't this on Saturday?
Right, yeah.
When I had magnets and was hot and
painted things.
Yeah, painted things.
So I did it because my costume wasn't completely made by me, but I did do a lot of additions, and there were aspects of it that I did make. So I did it. The only reward was just like a little ribbon that you could add to your badge. It wasn't anything crazy. The whole point was just to talk to people, meet people. Which
I will say, last year, they did hand out ribbons. She was wearing some of them on her badge. They had like, I made this, only cried a little.
That's the one that we had.
Like, yeah, ribbons like that.
Yes. Which we did. I'm pretty sure it's the same person, same group. So that was fun. It's fun that they actually got like a slot to give out those ribbons, And then the other thing that we did after the dealer's room closed was trivia. Now, this trivia was interesting.
It was hard.
That is to say, it was hard.
It was really hard.
The person who was running the panel said that they have done this panel successfully before, and the idea is that it's battle royale type style. So if you answer it and you answer it wrong, you're out. Things like that. What they did was they gave out gold stars.
Yeah.
And the idea was that they were gonna see who had the most gold stars at the end. We didn't stay till the very end, but that's how they, and then whoever had the most gold stars would be like the grand prize, right?
The panel didn't work very well, and she even acknowledged that because I guess they did it differently this year than they usually did it. I'm not sure.
She mentioned buzzards at some point, but yeah.
And so, but basically, what happened is that the people that went up to volunteer didn't know like any of the answers, and like. Then she would be like, okay, does anyone in the audience know? And then like one or two people would raise their hand. Answer. But like it was so sparse. And like, so part of it is that, which she even kind of said this herself, is that it was a bunch of old things. So like older than 10 years, or it was the stuff that was like recent was really hard.
Right.
So they had a couple questions about Jujutsu Kaisen. One of them had to deal with the arc names, which if you watch the anime and don't read the manga, you don't know the names of the arcs because they're never said.
Right.
And then the other one had to deal with, I'm pretty sure it was the opening for the newest season, which I didn't watch. So I'll give that one would have been easy for an anime watcher. We just didn't happen to know that one.
Right.
But like, there are some shows that she talked about that were like, I've never heard of this before.
There were
a lot of them
that I have never heard of.
Yeah. Like there were some that I had heard of, like there was like the football anime, which American I don't even know if that has an anime. I think that might just be a manga.
Right.
And then there was the cycling anime.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, how has this been successful?
Yes. So I mean, I get that you need there to be challenging questions, right? But, well, I can say that there's only one that I thought I knew the answer to and I was still wrong. And it was the one about Oran High School host club. How much did the face cost? And I thought I knew the answer and I was wrong. So it definitely just did kind of fall apart to where, because she was like, well, there isn't a singular person in this audience who knows the answer to a majority of these questions. Yeah. So it didn't really like work.
Yeah. Whenever we left, she changed the rules a couple times while they were playing. But it ended up being the entire audience is playing and whoever has the most gold stars at the end wins.
Right. Which is how it should have started.
Yeah. That's probably how it should have been in the entirety of it.
Yeah.
But like, Jesus, like I was like sitting through that and I was like, oh my God, this is really hard.
So, that was that. We wanted to check it out and that was that. Okay, second day. You were Kamen Rider, Shin Kamen Rider, and I was Suguru from Underground Murder Farce, which we have talked about on the podcast before.
Yes, which we very much enjoyed.
Yes. The first thing we did when we got there was take pictures, which was fun.
Yeah, the water gardens are great places for pictures.
It's beautiful out there, yeah, which is why it's probably my favorite convention location that I have personally been to. And then once we got back inside, we just kind of went back and did our thing. We finished out the Artist Alley, which I will say that there were a lot of stamp rallies in the Artist Alley, which is kind of a new thing that's starting, and it's working. All I can say is that it is working. I just kind of stumbled into one on accident, and she of course gave me a card and was like, here you go, and the cards were very nice, very put together, where it had a map of the whole Artist Alley and it had labeled which artists were participating in it.
Because there were quite a few different rallies. It wasn't just one stamp rally for the whole thing.
Yes, I stumbled into the cute animal rally, but there was Pokemon, Kirby, I'm thinking of there was more. Sonic was another one. So there were quite a few. And also several artists were part of multiple. So
oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yes, they were. They would have they would advertise that they were on 2 stamp rallies. Usually these were like spend $10, get a stamp kind of thing, which of course makes you want to spend $10 to get a stamp, and then you got a little goodie bag that was like their miscellaneous things.
Yeah.
Just put into a bag, and you got that stuff for free at the end, right?
For the most part it was themed though.
Yes. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super smart.
It's very smart. And especially since it has these artists now more in contact with each other, they're friends.
Yeah.
We also took pictures. Well, I already mentioned pictures,
but before we move on, I do want to talk about the Artist Alley for a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
God, it's so big.
It's huge.
It is massive. I want to emphasize this as much as possible. There's so much at this convention, buying wise. But the Artist Alley in particular, I'm not sure how artist alleys how they work when it comes to
vetting?
setting them up.
Oh, setting them up. Yes.
Because one thing that I noticed about this one that I thought was very funny is that a majority of the adult 18 plus artists were in the back corner, all together. And so I don't know if that was intentional or on accident, but I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes, I can agree with that. And I also noticed that the ones that were a majority mature content. So we took more pictures. We took pictures inside, or I took pictures, I guess, in the photo booth, which was nice. And then we had one panel. But before we get to that panel, I want to talk about this dance stage. Because this dance stage was in front of the elevators, or escalators. I'm sorry, in front of the escalators. So imagine you're trying to get onto the escalator to go up to the panel rooms, because all the panel rooms are upstairs. And there's just a horde of K-pop fans rushing in front of you to do their little dance in front of the escalators. That was a little frustrating.
Yeah.
A little annoying. And I just wish the stage was somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I mean, it was kind of fun to hear the different music, because the music was loud, so you could hear it from pretty much anywhere. It had a large radius, I guess I'll just say that. But it was pretty poorly placed. Onto the panel that we went to, though, it was a Meow Wolf panel, and it was a little meet the artist kind of thing. So if you guys don't know or have not heard of Meow Wolf, it's not a museum, it's an experience.
It's an interactive art experience.
Yeah. So there are several of them in the United States, but one just opened up really close to us, and they had the artists who, some of three of the artists.
Yeah, three of the artists. There's like 100 artists that work on these. Like, there's a ton of artists.
There's a ton of artists that work on these. But they had three of them at the convention, just kind of explain both their art journey and then what they did in Meow Wolf.
And a Q&A afterwards.
There was Q&A. Yeah. So it was just like a little... It was a pretty cool panel.
Mm-hmm.
We have not been to the Meow Wolf yet.
It's a little expensive.
It's a little pricey,
There was one person that was like, I've been 5 times since it opened, and it opened like less than a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But it does make me more interested in going.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because these three artists, they're all very different. And before, I didn't really know how Meow Wolf was like set up.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is to say, I thought maybe Meow Wolf was like a set art collective of maybe, let's say, like 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same 15 people for all of these different locations. I don't know, like,
yeah,
something like that. But they definitely made it clear that these are all just like independent artists for the most part that they just invite onto their team, and they're like, hey, you want to make something for this hallway? And that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. Like, one of the artists there, she's a high school teacher. Like, that's her job, and she has a mural in Meow Wolf. Like, she can say that she has a mural in Meow Wolf. So getting to learn more about how it's set up was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the artists were very different. So there was the one who was as I mentioned, the high school teacher. She, it doesn't do murals. She said that that was kind of a challenge for her, but she does do more like traditional art, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact word that they use. Contemporary, yeah,
more contemporary art. The other woman that was there was more like on the board.
Yeah, she was a part of like, they do have a permanent art team that does like the buffer between rooms.
Right.
So
yeah.
like they would make a hallway between two rooms that like were two different artists.
Right.
And
yeah.
like they do that.
Yeah, so she was on the permanent team, and she was more of like a sculptor. She did a lot of like recycled art is what was her thing. And then there was another artist who I guess made an arcade cabinet in the
So he's like an electronic artist.
Yes.
Or at least that's what he does now. He was very like adamant about explaining that basically he does everything. Like, he started at traditional art,
right,
and then he was like, I want to do this, I want to do that,
right,
and like now he's like a 3D modeler that makes like interactive experiences that you can do online from your home.
Yes.
And like he made a game that like doesn't use a controller, it just uses your hands.
Yeah,
it sounds super cool.
Yeah, so that's so he did the arcade cabinet, which uses the hands. So it was just cool to see them. Now I will say that we went because we were a little excited for the free merch.
Yeah, that was the main incentive of going.
Yes, because also, if for those who are not familiar with Meow Wolf, their merch is pretty cool.
Their merch is really cool.
With that being said, it was kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
They basically had one t-shirt that they were like had us all fight over. And then
it was like things that you would get at like a free giveaway.
Basically,
like,
I mean, it was a lot of stickers.
at like a booth.
Yeah, it was a lot of stickers, which the stickers are still cool.
Yeah.
But that was that. And then, yeah, I mean, we just kind of hung out. We did more shopping.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Trying to think of what I got that day. I mean, that was some more like so day one was impulsive buying for the most part. Day two was more planned buying of like, okay, I looked at what I want on day one. Now I'm going to get what I want on day two.
Yes.
And then day three.
Yes. Day three, we chill. That's usually how it works in conventions, right? We chill. We do our last minute shopping. It's a more of a relaxed look around, I guess. We got boba.
Yes.
Because we tried to get boba on Saturday, but they ran out of the one that we wanted. So on the third day, on Sunday, we went earlier because we're like, we are not going to let them run out on us this time. And something that we both noticed, so our favorite one is our favorite flavor of boba in general is taro. And we know that Boba Addiction, which is who goes to these conventions, goes to like all these conventions, had a flavor called Halo Halo, which is taro, but it has fruit gummies instead of like the tapioca balls. So we noticed that because we went to go look at their little menu and they said that they had taro boba and not Halo Halo. And we're like, oh, okay, like maybe it wasn't doing good. And the thing is that it was the Halo Halo.
Lo and behold, it is actually the Halo Halo.
With the fruit gummies.
Yeah.
And we think that maybe people are more familiar with the word taro than they are Halo Halo. So that's just a little fun tidbit that we noticed. And then the only panel that we did that day was the traditional games. So there was a guy who was very knowledgeable about Japanese traditional games, and he gave a presentation about, like I said, the history, a little bit of how it's played. You know, you can only do so much whenever it's a panel and the game isn't in front of everybody.
Game,
a board game or a card game or a dice game. But traditional, right? So, and he also was able to point out all of the like anime games or anime style games where you can play this. So he talked a lot about Yakuza because a lot of these games you can play in Yakuza, like Mahjong, Richie Mahjong, Shogi, Hanafuda, a bunch of games, and the dice game that I forgot the name of.
Yeah, I forget it too.
But it was pretty cool. And we didn't do the hands-on learning, but he was like, I mean, you could say he was just really excited to talk about games, you know, because he was like, because he gave his like Discord and he gave his his Nintendo, because he plays the 51 Clubhouse games on the Switch, which we have too, and it's how we have learned how to play a lot of these games. And he gave his Switch code to everybody, and he was like, let's play together. Yeah,
he was like, please. If you want to play sometime, join my Discord.
Here's my Nintendo like friend code. We can play Hanafuda together. And then we, like I said, we didn't do the like hands-on learning, but he then like had people. He had all these games like laid out on the table up there, and then he would have, if you wanted to like actually try playing the game, he would like walk you through how to play it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the last thing that we did. I mean, we finished our shopping.
Yeah.
And that was it. So,
I do want to say that this convention is a little unique in its shopping because they have large brand names come here.
Yes.
So they had a huge booth for G Fuel. Kinokuniya, the bookstore, had its own booth, which was also pretty big. And then Gundam Base had its own booth, which this is the only place in the United States where you can buy from Gundam Base,
right?
Which is insane. Or I'm pretty sure it's in the United States. Or
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, which, like I said, is insane. And I didn't get anything from the Gundam Base this time. I did a lot of shopping last time, and they just didn't have what I wanted this time. But Funimation had their own big booth. Crunchyroll did, and it's cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think this convention was sponsored by Crunchyroll.
Yes, it is.
Or Funimation, one of those two. I think they're the same thing.
It's now. Crunchyroll now, yes, but it is. Anime Frontier is always sponsored by Crunchyroll.
Yeah, and for the most part, every convention has booths for other conventions,
right?
But usually it's kind of an offhand thing to the side. But this convention has like big booths for each of their other conventions around, and those conventions were also doing had things there like A-Fest had if you scan this QR code, you can get discounted tickets.
You know what you need to do.
I do need to do that. I actually want to double check and make sure that I haven't already bought them.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Which I don't think I have, but regardless, it was really cool.
So just some kind of closing random miscellaneous things. This convention did have 2 eating areas inside of the exhibitors hall, which last year they only had 1. So I guess that's kind of a pro and a con.
Mm-hmm.
Pros, a lot more seating, which is like nice, because usually whenever you go to a Artist Alley, exhibitors hall, you go to sit on the floor near the wall whenever you need to take a break. For the most part, we were always able to find 2 empty chairs that we could just actually sit down at and take a break, which is very nice. Of course, the con to that is that second eating area did take up space where maybe vendors could be, but I think the trade-off was worth it. Mm-hmm. So,
did we say that the food was good this year?
Yes, that's what I was going to get to that. So, the food is decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you listen to our WeebCon debacle, the debacle that we had with the food at WeebCon, you know that it's important to have decent food at a convention. Because it's a place where, you're wanting people to stay there for as long as they can, right? Because the longer they stay there, the more money they spend. So you want there to be decent food. And this had also many options. They had a pretty extensive menu for it just being concessions. So essentially they had one side that was like more of your traditional concessions: nachos, hot dog, pulled pork sandwich, ham and cheese sandwich, right? Like super basic, I guess you could say. And then they had another line that was like fried rice and lo mein and Mongolian beef. Of course, that was more expensive, but the option was there, right? And that's nice. The food was really salty. Which
it was really salty.
Which I think is just part of the ploy of trying to get you to also then buy drinks, you know? But at least it was good. At least it sustained us. That's the important part. And I think that's all I want to say. Yeah. I had fun.
Yeah, it's a fun convention.
Yeah.
The shopping is a little daunting.
It is.
Because there's just so much of it. It was kind of funny because afterwards we filled out a survey of like, how was the con experience? And they said, how many hours did you spend at the convention? And they didn't actually have a high enough hour count for how long we spent. Yeah,
the survey, and if you did go to the convention, maybe you got emailed the survey. It says how many hours did you spend, and the highest hour count is 12, which, according to my calculations, we spent 18 hours there.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
So
because we spent about 6 to 7 hours there every day.
Yeah. So that's wild.
Yeah.
It's also wild that, the fact that the survey didn't go up that high.
Yeah.
That's really crazy to me. But you do spend a lot of time just looking at things. Mm-hmm. A lot of walking.
And it's mostly just shopping. Because there's just so much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I know I spent a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm happy with my purchases. Definitely am excited to go again next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I did forget to say, nobody recognized my Suguru costume.
Yeah.
And that made me really sad. So you guys have to get out there and watch Undead Girl Murder Farce so you can appreciate me, basically. Because I put a lot of effort in my costume. And people were like, oh, wow, it's a head in a cage. That's cool. But nobody wanted my picture, which was a little offensive. That's okay, because somebody on Twitter recognized it, so I guess it balances out. And if you are that person on Twitter that recognized, thank you. You made my day.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Konich-Yeehaw podcast. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Jared.
And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.